Let's look into the extensions for Des Kitchings and John Rudzkinski, UVA assistant coaches, coordinators for UVA football head coach Tony Elliott. Chris Graham here with Augusta Free Press. So, a couple of FOIA requests. I'm good at this. Freedom of Information Act public records request made of the University of Virginia answered for me. I'm recording this on Monday, December 9th. So the first was answered on Friday afternoon, right before 5 o'clock. I had to file a follow-up just to get some more details on the contract situations for both Des Kitchings, the offensive coordinator, John Rudzinski, the defensive coordinator. And here's what we learned. Got it all together now. I think I got a full picture, and I'm not sure it's a good one. Um, UVA football coordinators, Des Kitchings and John Rudzinski, each signed 3-year contracts when they signed with UVA, hired by Tony Elliott to head up the offense and defense, respectively, back in January 2022. So those 3-year deals would have kept them with UVA football through the end of the 2024 season, which just ended here a few days ago. So 3-year deals are pretty standard industry-wide for new coordinators at new places. New places being, with a new head coach, that kind of thing. So now, here's where things get interesting. 3-year deals through the 2024 season. That would have meant that they would have been up for renewal this year, after this 2024 season, which ended with the loss of Virginia Tech. Except that uh, they were signed to extensions at the beginning of this year, back in January. And this is a little out of the ordinary, let's just say the least. Now, I mean, it would be one thing if the program had success the first 2 years and you wanted to say, hey, we don't want you leaving. We don't want you talking with anybody on the outside. We want you staying around. Not the case, unfortunately. No offense to either of these guys or to Tony Elliott, their boss, but that's not the case. And they both signed extensions, adding basically another year to their deal. So they were signed through the end of the 2024 season. Now they're signed through the end of the 2025 season. Technically, their employment contracts end March 31st, 2026. For some reason, that's also standard, at least with the UVA staff. I did FOIA requests for all 24 assistant coaches and other support staff people. March 31st is the end of the football year, let's just say. It's not necessarily the end of spring football. Spring football goes into April most years. In fact, every year that I could think of, spring practices ended in early to mid-April for Virginia football. So that's the case. The year ends March 31st, and they're signed through March 31st, 2026. Okay. Effectively, the extensions added another year. They added the 2025 season. Now, here's what we have, adding it all up. And I don't know why this is. Maybe it's tax purposes where the money comes from. Base salaries, I have to assume, come from the university itself. And that puts a little bit of interest to the story about how, well, athletics gets all its money from athletics. Uh, you know, Assistant coaches and coaches are listed, at least part of their salary is listed as public database foyable salary. It's just there. The salaries for Des Kitchings, John Rudzkinski, base salaries maintain at 200,000 a year throughout. So 2022 through 2025, 200,000 a year. Supplemental and licensing income started at 625,000. It'll go to 775 for next year. So it's basically gone up 50,000 a year each year. Uh, so overall total compensation started at 825,000 in 2022. It'll be 975,000 next year, just under $1 million. Not far from what Carla Williams, at least as of the contract she's working under now, that ends May 31st, 2025. She's making $1.09 million. So they're in the ballpark of what the AD is making. Um, I know that from a FOIA request. So I've been doing these a lot. Now, I will point out here that, okay, the two coordinators, when they were hired, had different experience to bring to the job. Des Kitchings had been a 1-year offensive coordinator at two schools, Vanderbilt and NC State, not retained after those single seasons at either school. Um, John Rudzkinski actually had a decent resume, pretty good resume. He was at Air Force as the defensive coordinator for 4 years. His last two teams, his 2020 team ranked third nationally in scoring defense. His 2021 team ranked fourth in total defense, and I think they were 16th in scoring defense. Um, so he had more to bring resume wise. Maybe there was some agreement, tacit agreement behind the scenes. I'm gonna pay you the same, but if you're paying people based on market conditions, you probably would have paid Rudzinski more. Okay. Um, their numbers through two seasons did not suggest an extension needed to be in order. Okay, Kitchings offense, 2022 ranked 103rd nationally in total offense. That's in, total yards per game. So 103rd nationally, 130 roughly teams in Division One FBS football. 103rd out of those 130 roughly, 126 in scoring. So bottom 10 easily in scoring in 2022. He improved to 95th nationally in total offense in 2023 and 95th in scoring. So now from bottom 10, we're to bottom third of the country. And that's probably being generous. Now, Rudzinski's D first year, 44th in total defense, 49th in scoring, but that's a high water mark. 104th nationally in total defense last year, 119th in scoring last year, and then in 2024, both cratering. Now, there's nothing we can do about it. We signed him for an extra year already. The offense ranked 93rd nationally in total offense, 105th in scoring, and Rudzinski's defense ranked 103rd in total defense and 95th in scoring. That's amazing that they went 5-7 this year. So what's going on here? And here I'm saying I have to guess because no one will go on the record to talk about this, and that's I understand. There's not going to be an official word on this, and even if you did get him to go on the record, if you got Tony Ellis going on the record, Carlo Williams going on the record, which there are people in witness protection who go on the record more than Carlo Williams does, but that's another story for another day. I'm guessing here because there's not going to be anybody who's going to give me anything on this officially. It was clear going into this past season, 2024, and even into spring practice, that this was a make or break year for Tony Elliott. Not that he'd be fired at the end of this year based on lots of things, including the buyout, but that this would be a year that would determine how next year would have to go for him. Um, his first two teams went 3-7, 3-9. We all know that. So the thought was, hey, let's get through this year, I guess, and see how things go. 5-7 doesn't quite move the needle. All the guys that they're losing, lots of guys in the transfer portal already, 43 seniors and grad seniors. So we're very much, if this was a make or break year, we're going in the direction of break. Essentially, what Tony Elliott would have been saying when he asked for his guys to get extensions before this season is if 2024 is a break year for me, I don't want to go into 2025 with my job on the line with new coordinators. I'd rather, go through that battle with guys I've been to war with. And that's fair. I think that's, if you're gonna have to choose your way of going out, that's a way to go out is with guys who you've been there with. So I think that's what's going on here. Now, I will argue on the flip side of continuity, the value of continuity in this case, with the results we've been seeing these past 3 years, this kind of sounds like the classic definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.